Dr. Anjali Kapila.
Ma'am, she will be joining around 12:30. That's her assigned time.
Okay. So this hour is Maya, and
Yeah.
then she will come. I thought both of us speak in once.
No.
Okay.
She has
got it.
She has another hour dedicated to her.
So, very good morning, ma'am. Ma'am, now we can go. It's already on YouTube.
Okay.
We can go. We can start.
So Nandini, are you there, beta?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we can start.
Okay, ma'am. Good morning, everyone.
I hope you have switched on the recording thing for this, Sonal. Sonal sir, is the recording on?
Yes, ma'am, it is showing. Yes, ma'am, it is showing.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I, Nandita Gupta, Executive Team Member of Eco Club Durva, welcome you all on National Webinar on Environment and Gender and Environment conducted by Eco Club Durva of Shyama Prasad Mukherjee College for Women, University of Delhi. This is conducted under the aegis of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav to commemorate 75th years of independence of our country. Before we get started, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to who all generously helped and came together to organize this interactive webinar. It's an honor to welcome Dr. Vandana Shiva and Dr. Anjali Kapila, Principal Professor Sadhna Sharma Ma'am, Eco Club teachers and faculty members, and the audience who have gathered here. Thank you for your presence. First of all, I call upon convener Ms. Tripti Anand Ma'am for welcome address.
Thank you, Nandita. Good morning, everyone. As the convener of Eco Club Durva of Shyama Prasad Mukherjee College, University of Delhi, I welcome you all to this national webinar on gender and environment, organized under the aegis of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. First, a warm welcome to our resource person, Dr. Vandana Shiva Ma'am and Dr. Anjali Kapila, both renowned environmentalists. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invite. We are highly honored. Special thanks to Principal Professor Sadhna Sharma. Ma'am is always leading our institute to new heights with her vision and focus. I also welcome the Eco Club team of teachers, executive team of students, all faculty members and participants to this national webinar. Thank you. Nandita?
Yes, ma'am. In today's webinar, we have well-known person, both environmentalist and feminist, Dr. Vandana Shiva and Dr. Anjali Kapila. Now, I would like to give a brief intro of Dr. Vandana Shiva. Dr. Vandana Shiva, she is an environmentalist, an Indian scholar, food sovereignist advocate, ecofeminist, and the anti-globalization author. She has written more than 20 books. She is often referred as Gandhi of Green for her activism associated with anti-GMO movement. She persuaded interdisciplinary research in science, technology, and environmental policy at the Indian Institute of Science and the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore. Dr. Shiva is one of the leaders and the board members of International Forum on Globalization and a figure of the anti-globalization movement. She is a member of the Scientific Committee of Fudakian Ideas, Spain's Socialist Party's think tank. She is also a member of the International Organization for the Participatory Society. In 1982, she founded the Research Foundation for Science, Technology, and Ecology. This led to the creation of Navdanya in 1991. In 2004, Dr. Shiva started Bija Vijapati, an international college for sustainable living in Doon Valley, Uttarakhand, in collaboration with Sumatra College, UK. Among her many awards are the Alternative Nobel Prize, Right Livelihood Award 1993, Order of the Golden Ark, Global 500 Award of UN on Earth Day International Award, Lenin Ono Grant for Peace Award by Yuko Ono in 2009, Sydney Peace Prize in 2010, Doshi Bridge Builder Award, Calgary Peace Prize, and the Thomas Merton Award in 2010. Her first book, Staying Alive, 1988, helped change perceptions of third world women. Varna Shiva ma'am has been interviewed for a number of documentary films, including Freedom Ahead, Roshni, and many more. It's an honor that you are addressing us today. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Nandita. Greetings to everyone. And I would like to connect the theme of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav with the theme of gender and environment. So what does Azadi mean in the Indian context? It means living a sovereign culture. And India's culture is an ecological culture. We are distinctive, as Tagore said, in that we never ran after money. We are distinctive because we saw the earth as living. We saw the forests as living. We saw every herb in a forest as living. And therefore, our culture is a culture that is based on the earth as one family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That is the Azadi we must celebrate today. Vasundhara is a goddess of the earth, and every year we organize at Navdanya a beautiful festival of our members called Vasundhara. Kutumbakam is the family. So if we are one earth family, then whose freedom counts? Whose Azadi counts? The Azadi of that little seed to not be manipulated and mutilated and patented and owned. That's the work I do through Navdanya. Since 1987, I have been saving seeds as my duty to the earth, as our Bij Swaraj. Why is that Azadi important? Because 5 toxic companies, Bayer, Monsanto, Dow, DuPont, yesterday was the tragic anniversary, 37th year of the Bhopal disaster. That's the year I moved from my studies in science, technology, physics, into trying to understand why so many people had died in the city of Bhopal. And it's the women of Bhopal who are still leading the movement for justice in Bhopal. That same year, in 1984, Punjab had protests, and then there was violence, and the Golden Temple was invaded. I said the Green Revolution was supposed to bring prosperity and peace to Punjab, and I've studied there. I did my MSc honors in particle physics at the University of Punjab, and said something's wrong. So I started to look at agriculture and study agriculture. But of course, long before that, I had been involved in the beautiful movement called CHIPCO, which is really my university of ecology, my university of biodiversity, my university of ecofeminism. Because the women who were coming out and saying, we're going to hug the trees. You cannot cut these trees. If you look around the world, in those days, I used to work as a volunteer for the CHIPCO movement. And what we would do is map the deforestation, create awareness in the country of how women were acting. But they had associated the destruction of forests with the landslides and the floods. 1970, a terrible disaster had taken place in Alaknanda Valley. Same valley where the disaster took place this year in February. In the same village where in 1972, Gaura Devi rose and said, you cannot cut our forests. And then the whole village rose. But of course, the awareness of the role of forests, of value of forests, had been there pre-independence. When the salt satyagraha took place to defend our Azadi to make salt and fight the British who wanted a monopoly on salt. exactly at that same time in 1930, the people of our region in Uttarakhand went to Tilari in the Yamuna Valley and said, these forests are our mothers. These forests protect us. They are not the property of the king or the British. They are our protection. They are our common resource, our common community resource. And people were shot dead at the Tilari massacre. And there's a beautiful declaration in my book, Ecology and the Politics of Survival, where people said, we've got to take the forest back from the empire. We have worked as part of the forest. Now the empire wants to turn them into timber mountains. And the destruction of the forest that started with the British Empire then reached its peak in the 70s, when, because of the war with China, a lot of road building took place in remote areas. And those road building arteries became exploitation arteries to bring the forest down as timber. And including the Alaknanda Valley, including the Gangi Valley, where I have marched and walked in every valley where destruction was taking place. So women connected deforestation from floods, landslides, and disasters. And if we were to make a map today, like we used to make maps that time in the Chipko movement, wherever there's a disaster, a landslide because of an extreme climate event, is deforestation. Do it for Kerala. Every landslide linked to deforestation. The horrible landslides in Uttarakhand, 77 people died in October when we shouldn't have rain. But the rain led to landslides, and a lot of trekkers on holiday died. In Rainy this year, 200 people were washed away when the glacier burst, and then the dam building had led to a lot of destruction of the forests as well as the mountains. So you destroy nature, you destroy human life. That simple connection is ecology. When you realize that it is women who stand up in defense of nature, defending their rights and the rights of nature, that is ecofeminism. It's as simple as that. Now, a lot of people have tried to distort what the women of Chipko were saying, what people like me articulating what the women of Chipko were saying, or what the women of Bhopal are saying. And they make it look like we are saying that only women are connected to nature. Now, that is rubbish. It is rubbish because anyone not connected to nature would be very dead. Yeah? We are alive because we are part of nature, and nature gives us life. If the trees did not take the sunlight and take the carbon dioxide and through the green leaf, convert it into carbohydrates that give our food, convert it into oxygen that gives us breath, we would be dead. The green leaf gives us life. Therefore, we eat and breathe because of the plants that have evolved on this living earth, the only living planet. There is no planet B with life. That's why I tell the billionaires who are trying to colonize Mars, I said, just go, leave this beautiful earth alone so that we can take care of it. Leave this earth, stop messing her up, just export yourself to a dead planet. And because so much of what the billionaires claim that they create is actually stolen wealth. And I'll come to this point a little later. The living planet gives us food. The living planet gives us breath. The living planet gives us water. The Chipko movement was my, I have in my book, Staying Alive, which you mentioned, I have a whole chapter on forests. And here were women who'd never been to school, who'd never been to university, who'd never been to colleges like you are privileged to study in. But they were in the University of Nature. And they knew the broad-leaved species fall, create humus. In the humus, the water is collected, and slowly the springs give us water. When there is no humus, the rain comes and comes as a flood. So the conversion of our heavy monsoon into perennial rivers and perennial springs is because of the forest. And my sisters in Chipko understood it. But our civilization understood it. Most people don't realize that the beautiful story of the descent of the Ganga has this element where the Ganga is saying, I am too powerful. And Bhagirath, you are calling me to come down to earth. I will tear the earth apart with my force. So ask Shiva to put his dreadlocks to break my force. Those dreadlocks of Shiva are the forest, mountain forests. They are the trees that are Shiva's hair, because Parvati and Shiva are the gods of these mountains where I live. So the forests are vital. The trees are vital. The plants are vital for our life. And even men depend on this. Men are not separate from it. We are biological beings. We are ecological beings. We need nourishment from nature. And therefore, we must take care of her. Of course, we've been colonized. And in the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, I think it is extremely important that future generations recall what colonization is all about, what people like Gandhi were fighting against when Gandhi wrote, while fighting the Indian Act in South Africa in 1906, he wrote a little book called Hind Swaraj. Please read it. All of you must read it. Hind Swaraj is really the Azadi Ka Bible. And what he's doing is looking at the industrial colonizing civilization of the British Empire. And he says so clearly in this book that this civilization only seeks bodily comfort, but it fails miserably in doing that too. Because when you get too many automobiles on the street, then you're going to have pollution. When you cut down too many trees for your convenience, you're going to have floods. So for greed, it exploits nature, but in the process punishes itself. If you do agriculture like we do in Navdanya, and I do hope your college will make a trip to understand what true freedom is for nature and people, understand how we are part of the biodiversity web of life, how we and nature are interrelated. At the beautiful biodiversity farm of Navdanya that has grown and evolved over the last 30 years, everything, every process of nature is alive. And I hope you will take the opportunity. People come to study, do their PhDs here now, because there is no place where you can find pollinators. There's no place you can find insects and fireflies. There's no place where you can find diversity. We grow 750 varieties of rice here. But Navdanya, the movement has saved 4,000. We have more than 1,000 in our Orissa seed bank, and in Chhattisgarh seed bank, in Jharkhand seed bank. And all of this was done because I had to defend our Bij Swaraj. Why was I defending our Bij Swaraj? Because the Monsantos of the world were saying, we have created the seed. GMO for Monsanto is God move over. We are the creators, and therefore we must own the seed. We must patent the seed. I have been dealing with Monsanto all these years. Today, there's very good news. The company called Pepsi had patented, or not patented, taken a breeder's rights on a potato. And last year, 2 years ago, before the lockdown, they sued 4 farmers of Gujarat for 4,000 crores for saving seeds. I saw this in the newspapers, and I immediately sent to the lawyers and judges this book called Origin, The Corporate War on Nature and Culture. It is my 35 years of work on intellectual property rights and biodiversity, on seeds and on plants, on every law we have shaped. And we are very fortunate to have good laws that say plants, animals, and seeds are not human inventions, therefore they cannot be patented. Article 3J of our patent law I worked with our parliament to get that article in. Our Plant Variety Act, where the agriculture people were saying, oh, we got to let the companies own the seed, they're the breeders. I said, no, the farmers of this country are the breeders. They took one wild grass called Oryza sativa and turned it into 200,000 varieties of rice. They are not the true breeders. The real breeders are the farmers. And therefore, we must have farmers' rights. And the agriculture minister of that time, Chaturanan Mishra, invited me and the ambassador to GATT, Mr. S.P. Shukla, to draft the law, which is the Plant Variety Protection and Farmers' Rights Act. So we put a clause, Article 39, in that law. And I sent this book to the judges and the lawyers. And the judges basically told Pepsi, withdraw this case, otherwise we'll have to dismiss it. I'm so glad that yesterday, the authority that had given them the intellectual property right withdrew that fake right to Pepsi for potato, through which they were trying to sue our farmers. So my life has been dedicated to saving seed, because I do not accept that seed is dead. I do not accept that nature is dead. I do not accept that the destroyers and colonizers of the earth, of the plants, of our land, of our territories, of our food, our minds, are creators. I don't have a creation confusion. Yeah? Capitalist patriarchy, which we have defined as the power of greed with capitalism and the power of male domination in, the domination in patriarchal form. Corporations are patriarchal constructs. They are in the image of a man. They are not of a rich man and a white man. They're not in the image of a mother taking care of her children. So the corporate form is a patriarchal form. So I see these as constructs. And for those of you who want to understand this more deeply in today's time, please look at my book, Oneness versus 1%, which has been published by Women Unlimited, the feminist publisher in Delhi, originally Kali for Women, who published Staying Alive. So colonialism created the idea that the earth is empty. She has no life. She is purely property. India, we had no property in land. Sabhi bhumi gopal ki, we used to say. The community used to allocate land, and people had use rights. In law, it's called usufructory rights. Then there are ownership rights. We did not own the seed. We did not own the land. We could not own Mother Earth. That is the Azadi that we have to seek again. With one stroke of a pen, the British Empire declared that all of the land and all of the property and all of the soil of India was their property. And therefore, from the original peasants who were working the land, they started to collect rents. This is called Lagan. For those of you who've seen the movie called Lagan, remember, it is about Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav. It is about fighting against the exploitation of the Lagan extraction. It's extraction. Empire was an extractive empire. So I remembered all of that. I remember the salt satyagraha. And I said, now they want Bij Lagan. And we will fight against this collection of rents from seed in the disguise of intellectual property. And I'm so grateful and so happy that some work I started in 1987 has continued. And this is gender and environment coming together. Again, to repeat, so none of you misunderstand, it is not that women are linked to nature in ways, biologically, in ways that men are not. Biologically and ecologically, we are all part of nature. We all depend on nature. We are biologically and ecologically linked to nature. But as nature starts to get destroyed, it's the women who come out first, the women of Chipko, the women of Bhopal, the women fighting the dams. And why is that? So colonialism was about saying the earth is dead. Capitalist patriarchy said, and the women are passive objects. Capitalist patriarchy said women's work doesn't count. Yeah? No, they don't do real work, because work was reduced to that which gets profits for the capitalist. Work that sustains life was not counted as work. Nature's work was not counted, women's work was not counted. So nature was declared dead, inert matter, just raw material to be exploited, and women were declared passive objects to be owned, traded, abused. And one of the biggest genocides of our time is femicide. I was just doing a talk the other day for a women's group, and on a daily basis, I think it's about 79 women, a large number of women are being killed every day, killed through violence, because they're treated as property. And if the woman tries to do something of her own, then she has to be abused and killed. So the violations against nature and the violations against women go hand in hand, because the worldview and the structural systems, both of knowledge as well as economy, that devalue nature also devalue women. The convergence of the Azadi for nature and the Azadi for women is the recognition that nature is alive, the recognition that women are intelligent, creative, autonomous, independent human beings who are part of nature, who do most of the work to take care of nature, to take care of community, to take care of society, to take care of children, to take care of their women participate and are the basis of what I call the economy of care. There is another economy of grabbing, of taking, of extraction, of lagan. But that is not truly an economy, because economy means care for the home. Economy, oikos, is the Greek word for home. Oikonomia is the art of living in Aristotle's description. What is being called economy today, Aristotle so clearly called it chrematistics, the art of money-making, extracting, money-making, hunger for the greed for money, the greed for profits, the greed of having more and more. So we have a situation where 1% is controlling the wealth of the world, controlling the resources of the world, and they would like a future where no one has land, where no one has their own seed, where no one has their own food, and that we even buy our bread from them. Already, what is Coca-Cola? I'll tell you another story of an eco-feminist struggle. So in 2002, I got a call from Tamil Nadu, from Kerala, to say, please come and celebrate Earth Day with us. Earth Day is 22nd of April. And it was a group of women fighting Coca-Cola. So I went because I had no idea why they're fighting Coca-Cola. I've never liked that drink. When we were growing up, when we were your age, when we were young, Coca-Cola had been banned in India by George Fernandes. George Fernandes found them committing financial fraud. So he threw out IBM and Coca-Cola for financial fraud. We didn't have Coca-Cola in India till the new liberal policies allowed them to come back. I've never liked it as a drink. I find it extremely strange tasting because I'm used to Nimbu Pani and I'm used to Bel Ki Sharbat and I'm used to Aam Panna, and we have resurrected all these indigenous cold drinks when we were fighting against Coca-Cola in support for the Plachimada movement. But a woman called Malama came out and said, why are we walking 10 miles? While this company takes 1.5 million liters a day and leaves our groundwater, depletes our groundwater and leaves it toxic. So they explained the process to me. And then I committed myself. There were 100 women and children and 500 policemen. I said, I'm there for you. I will work with you to defend you. And I defended them. I worked with court cases. I brought in movement activists from around the world, the Maud Barlows and the Joseph Boveys, to witness this exploitation of Coca-Cola. At the end of it, the Satyagraha, which is, Satyagraha is the ultimate Azadi Ka Mahotsav. The Satyagraha of the women of Plachimada shut the Coca-Cola plant down. One of the biggest companies of the world, handful of committed women, shut the Coca-Cola plant down. But not only is capitalist patriarchy trying to own and control the earth's resources, but the products it is bringing us are toxic for our health. Yesterday, I was a chief guest at the function of the Breastfeeding Network of India. And as you might know, breast milk is the safest, best, and the most nourishing food. But these companies like Nestle brought in formula milk in cans. And that led to massive death, and it still does, because that formula has to mix in water. And most of the places there is no clean water. Those plastic bottles have germs in them. They are a source of contamination. And when that tin is used, it's thrown away. Yeah. When the Coca-Cola bottle is used, it's thrown away. So when you worry about how much package, how much plastic is around, think of the fact that we are being ruled by a junk food and junk drink industry that is putting junk inside our bodies, causing the epidemic of chronic diseases. And if I have time later, I can explain even the infectious diseases, the new infectious pandemics, but definitely causing the chronic diseases, the diabetes, the cancers, the neurodegenerative diseases, the infertility. And because the treatment of these diseases brings more profits, to the same companies who put the poison. Pesticides are made by the 4 companies, I call them poison cartel. They came out of Hitler's labs. Those same companies are Dow, which killed our people in Bhopal. Dow merged with DuPont. Now, Union Carbide was the original company. Dow bought it. Dow then merged with DuPont. DuPont and Dow together call themselves Corteva, and you will never even link them to the Bhopal disaster. Monsanto, Agent Orange in Vietnam. Roundup, BT Toxics, 400,000 farmers of India have committed suicide. 400,000 farmers. Most of them, you make the map, most of the suicides in the cotton belt. 95% of the cotton is owned and controlled by Monsanto. So we are talking about huge loss of life. And every harm done to nature is harm done to us. Because human beings are not separate from nature. You are young women. And I know the marketing of the junk food will be making you turn thoughtlessly to eating that next packet of chips and drinking that next bottle of Coke and Pepsi. But these are the reasons there is an epidemic. India is the epicenter of diabetes in the world. So Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is the right to be healthy. A right to be healthy means a right to eat healthy food. The right to eat healthy food means the right to grow healthy food without chemicals, without poisons. And that's why I work on organic farming. I work on organic farming as a service to Mother Earth. Say, I will not poison you, Mother Earth. I will not spread pesticides that kill all life. I will not put fertilizers in the soil that kill the earthworms and the mycorrhizal fungi. I will not kill. I will not use instruments of killing, which is what agrochemicals are. I will work with non-violence, the non-violent technologies that you have given us, of recycling, of taking the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and putting it in the soil. My book, Soil Not Oil, is about how, working ecologically with the earth through organic farming, we can actually address climate change. The figures are there. Right now, we are offering a course on Soil Not Oil, where we are dealing with these avenues of addressing climate change without having to blast the atmosphere with pollution, the issue of geoengineering or carbon capture or fake food. There's a huge rush. Fake food as a climate solution. No, food is the reason we are ill or healthy. Junk food, chronic food has given us disease. If we eat fake food made in labs with totally artificial ingredients, we will be very sick people. So rise up for the future Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. It is about your bodies being safe and secure against violation. It's about your bodies being healthy through healthy food. Become new freedom fighters for the earth and your future. Thank you.
Now, I request Vani to take forward.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. So I would like to take a few questions. There's a question from Kanishka. Ma'am, can we also discuss about the exploitation of non-human females like cows? 63% of Amazon rainforest has been destroyed just for cattle ranching.
That's not true. Most of the Amazon destruction, that figure is an old figure where people like McDonald used to source a lot of their meat from there. Most of the Amazon destruction, if you look at the scientists publishing from Amazon, is for GMO soya. Now, GMO soya is, of course, used for animal feed, and cows should not be eating animal feed because everywhere factory farming is being pushed. And sadly, even in India, they're using this argument to then actually promote the place where animals are actually tortured. In our country, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav means we continue the culture of the sacred cow. I grew up with cows. My mother had cows. They were a part of our family. They were never abused. We got the leftover milk. So there is a group of people who would like to destroy the culture of the sacred cow and create all kinds of fake myths. Let me run through the scientific facts. Most of the greenhouse gases come from industrial farming. My book, Soil Not Oil, is about that. 14% from the production, which includes huge machineries. If you have plows with animals, there is no fossil fuel emission. Yeah. On our farm, we do not use tractors. We work with animals. We work and the animals work. The males work as bullocks and the female are there. Both of them give us the gift of cow dung. Hum kyon govardhan puja karte hain? Kyonki the secret of the link between humans and the soil is the animals. And our civilization understood it. That's why we made the cow sacred. Yeah, the cow is sacred in India because the only way to do sustainable agriculture. The next destruction is 20% destroying the palm oil for destroying the forests of Indonesia, Malaysia, Northeast India. They want to destroy Congo, Amazon, the Ecuadorian Amazon for palm oil. Yeah. That leads to 20% emissions. Amazon is soya. All the scientific literature shows how the Amazon soya cultivation is destroying. Now, 98, you won't know, you're all young, born after that. When were you born? How old are you?
Ma'am, I was born in 2002.
So, yeah, so, time moves very fast. In 98, the soya lobby manipulated to ban our oils, our mustard, our til, our groundnut, our coconut, and to dump GMO soya on us. Please look at that history to understand that GMO soya oil is destroying your health. The women of the slums called me and said, "Aap khane ki bahut baat karti hain. Ab Anna Swaraj ki bahut baat karti hain. Hamara Anna Swaraj वापस लाओ, हमारा सरसों वापस लाओ." And then I did research. I wrote a book called Mustard versus Soya. I did all the research on the soya lobby at that time and all the virtues of our edible oils. And then, the women wanted to do a satyagraha and we joined them on a sarson satyagraha. We brought mustard back to the market. It was to be banned. But the GMO soya is still subsidized. It's subsidized by the US, by the Cargills, and it's subsidized by the government of India. Palm oil is subsidized. These oils are cheap because they are subsidized. So don't go for the crude story. Cows cause emissions. Cows in factory farms cause methane emissions. You walk behind an Indian cow that is free range in a village. Walk behind her. and you get a stink. Methane is a stinky gas that comes from the landfills of garbage. It comes from animals crouched together and then fed with soya bean. Cows are herbivores. They're supposed to eat grass. That's why they have 4 stomachs. To force them animal feed is where their methane starts to increase. And then you have thousands of cows together, and that methane producing toxic waste is now dumped into rivers. All of this is what is causing the problem. We are not doing violence to our sacred mother cow. The factory farms are doing violence, and we must distinguish between this. There's also another very crude thinking that, because in factory farms, chicken are being tortured. We have a lovely book that we wrote when KFC entered. It's called The Tale of Two Chicken. I'll just show it to you. We wrote this to fight KFC. Now, when you have Kentucky Fried Chicken, you need lots and lots of chicken. So you have factory farms. The book is about a free-range chicken, Rani, and Felicity, a factory chicken. This is true stories. And when we did this book, we realized that if chicken are only egg-laying chicken, then you have to have the female, right? So what do? They take the male and burn and basically put them into a cyanide bag, in a plastic bag, and kill them instantaneously. A new research is now saying, if we do gene editing and wipe out the male offspring forever, we will be preventing cruelty. Extinction of a species or a gender is violence. So we have to come back to the deep roots, come back to the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. We have the deepest ideas of ahimsa, the deepest ideas of non-violence. Go deep to these roots in the Buddhist tradition, in the Jain tradition, in our indigenous traditions. And let's not just parrot the nonsense and the rubbish the Americans are putting on us and the Bill Gates are putting on us to colonize us again.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, even the cows in India, like factories like Mother Dairy and Govardhan, they treat cows the same way like America does.
That's not true. Please correct your misconception. Please correct your misconception. Amul is a cooperative. The producers are women. It's an eco-feminist cooperative. The women have 2 cows, 1 buffalo, and it is largely women producers who often don't even have land. Yeah? So this base of small women producers then brings their milk together at certain points. Amul is not a factory farm. Amul is a cooperative that then allows the collection of the milk, maintain its purity, chill it, process it, and please do not equate Amul with the American factory farms. This is why I say we are being colonized again. If brilliant young children like you going to college are repeating the propaganda of the Americans to destroy our economy of food, that's colonization to me. And Amrit Mahotsav is stay free in your thinking. Look around you. Please make a trip to the base of the women cooperative. If you see a film, I would request the college, bring the film called Manthan, in which Smita acted. Manthan, please. Yeah, it's a film on this cooperative.
Ma'am, it's not Amul. Amul is a cooperative, but obviously there are.
No, you said Mother Dairy as a fact. It's not a factory farm. They're merely a processing plants. There are no animals there. The animals are in women's homes. The animals are in women's homes who love them and care for them, and often even more than their children, because those mothers, the cows, as sacred mother, supports the children's education. Yeah. So I would love to organize an exposure trip for the young people who want to care for the cow, to see how Indian women care for the cow. Yeah.
Ma'am, then why are the cows thrown on roads after they stop producing
Okay, I'll
milk?
tell you on that. I will tell you
Organize
that.
something like that.
Yeah, that is because a few years ago, a law was written to ban trade. Yeah. Now, basically, like, why did I fight against the laws that would have made seed the property of Monsanto? Monsanto wanted to prohibit farmers from having their seed and exchanging their seed. That's what Pepsi tried to do by suing farmers. So I said, no, we have a freedom, an Azadi, to save our seeds and share our seeds, right? So we prevented the encroachment of corporate law into the community space of farmers. It is a recent law that made it illegal for farmers to exchange their animals. Now, if any of you know Indian economy and Indian culture, the livestock sector is one of the biggest sectors in India. And we have beautiful fairs for animals. We have the Son Mela for elephants. We have the Pushkar for camels. Every little place has fairs for animals. These were all made illegal. If I'm in Dehradun, I want to exchange my cow, or I want to get a new bull, I put my animals. And by and large, the older animals were then sent. We had beautiful gaushalas. I have been to gaushalas where there'll be 2,000 old aged cattle being looked after. We took care of but this law to ban exchange is what led to the criminalization of the cattle economy, and the farmers started to abandon their cattle. Yeah. And that's why for the farmers, a big problem is now the cows are, all over the place. And our sacred mother has been turned into a problem. This is related to that one law of prohibiting the local trade of animals. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, what according to you is the
I want to show you one, I have a whole chapter on women in the food chain. And in that, I have the two images. The sacred cow as the cosmos. Every part of her is sacred. Yeah. And the money machine. Right? So the West wants to destroy this to take us here. And we must resist this to keep us.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, what according to you is the biggest environmental threat today?
As I mentioned, we are not separate from nature, and every part of nature is interconnected. The biosphere of the planet is what regulates the climate. When you destroy the biosphere and you start depending on fossil fuels, of course, you get the problem of climate change. But climate change comes to the ground through floods and landslides. So I will not separate individual aspects of the ecological crisis we are facing, an ecological emergency, an ecological catastrophe. We could be pushed to extinction, either for lack of food, or because of climate disasters, or because of water crisis and desertification. All of these are interrelated crises, and not one of them is connected to all others. They're not independent of each other. So when you say what's the most important ecological crisis, I would say extinction. Climate change is immediate, but extinction is immediate for 200 species that are going out of existence, but extinction is our future. In 100 years, we as a species could go extinct. Now, we should take that very seriously.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, does gender responsible for climate action, and apart from awareness and cleanliness drive and plantation drives, what can we do at ground level?
Well, I already earlier mentioned in my talk that protecting the forests, of course, is vital. Plantations are not forests, please. A forest is up in the catchment where it's playing the role of provide stabilizing soil, stabilizing water, holding the rain, providing local needs. A plantation is a eucalyptus plantation providing pulpwood. Yeah, I've done books and books and books on this. Don't equate the two. A plantation is not a forest. A plantation is a monoculture of commercial wood. A forest is an ecosystem of life support. I talked about how organic farming is such an important climate solution. We have the potential by working with the plants and the green leaves and biodiversity, pulling down that carbon dioxide and converting it into living plants, biosphere, carbohydrates, organic soil. And the potential is 10 gigatons per year. If we stop the fossil fuel use and all the pollutions related to it, the pollution of nitrous oxide that come from nitrogen fertilizers, methane that comes from factory farms, carbon dioxide that comes from burning of fossil fuels, and all fossil fuels lead to carbon dioxide, including gas. Gas is not a clean fuel if you read the literature in its life cycle, because gas is fracked. You blast rocks for little pieces of gas in it. You totally destroy water systems. That's why read the protest taking place right now against the gas pipeline in Canada by indigenous people there, the tribal people there. So add up all of that. The food system is 50% of the problem, but organic farming, local food systems, healthy food systems, biodiverse food systems, which can grow enough food for the world. Our studies show we can feed 2 times India's population. But while we do that, we create climate resilience. And globally, if we do it, we can address climate change.
Thank you so much.
So eat organic as a climate solution.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like our convener, Tripti Anand ma'am, to take forward the event for vote of thanks to Vandana Shiva ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing your time. And I think from your experience, our students will definitely learn more about the subject. And thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. One moment, someone put a chat there. We can be vegan. Please understand, if you are eating GMO soya, if you are eating GMO soya, you are doing huge harm to the earth. GMOs, most of the plant-based foods are based on GMO soya. Factory foods are plant-based. Otherwise, you're a vegetarian, you eat plants. The processed factory-produced food is made from GMO soya, which has destroyed everything by the spread of Roundup. It has created cancer. It has destroyed food and biodiversity. It is killing the butterflies and bees, and it is polluting the groundwater. There are cases, 1,500 cases in America of cancer induced by Roundup. So, our word in Hindi is Shakahari. हम शाक खाते हैं. मेरे घर के पास एक बहुत सुंदर टेम्पल है शाकुंभरी का. हमने अभी एक बहुत सुंदर फेस्टिवल किया शाकुंभरी. The plants that the earth gives us. Please do not import a word vegan. It's a colonizing word. We don't have it in our vocabulary. You want to be Azad, use your words from your rich culture, which gives you so many options. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request Nandita to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Anjali Kapila.
Good morning, ma'am. Now I would like to give a brief intro of our other next speaker, Dr. Anjali Kapila. Anjali Kapila ma'am was an associate professor in the postgraduate department of development communication and extension at the Lady Irwin College, University of Delhi, and has a PhD from the Department of Home Science, University of Delhi in Community Resource Management. Currently, Anjali Kapila ma'am is the Vice President of Mountain Indian Peoples Forum, Executive and Governing Body Member of Institute of Himalayan research and empowerment in the Ram Ganga Valley, Kumaon, and the trustee of Himkon in the Tehri Grewal. Also, at present, Dr. Kapila ma'am is the project coordinator of the research study entitled Documenting Rivering Cultures, the Ganga from Gangotri to Haridwar. Dr. Kapila ma'am major published work has focused on anthropology and communication. Her first book, Images of Women in the Folk Songs of Grewal Himalayas, a participatory research, is the treatise on how songs can be powerful source of for communication. She also authored a second book, Traditional Health Practices of Kumaon Women, Continuity and Change, which reflects how modernity and tradition can coexist with one another without losing its presence. It's an honor that we are addressing us, that you are addressing us today, and I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Tripti. Thank you, Shama Prasad Mukherjee College, for inviting me. And being a fellow Delhi University faculty, I feel wonderful to address young people and my faculty colleagues on this platform. Thank you so much for having me. Can I have the PowerPoint presentation?
Sure, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can we make the screen larger, Ritika? Yeah, thank you so much. So today, after the wonderful talk by Vandana Shiva, which has raised so many issues on the ground, and she has reiterated the value of gender and environment in such a lucid way, I'm going to take you to the mountains. And my work is related to understanding environment through the songs of the women of the Garhwal Himalayas. Now, Garhwal, as you know, is an integral part of the newly created hill state of Uttarakhand. So I'm going to share my journey with you and make you understand how songs are a rich source material for understanding environment and the correlation between gender and environment. So I'm going to start with the narrative. As you know, all the young faculty members and my respected students, that having a PhD, adding that doctor to your name is absolutely mandatory in an academic career. But I, as a faculty at Lady Irwin, I was very resistant because nothing was passionate enough to make me feel involved in understanding that research. So I took 20 years, and only when I was 42 years old, I had the opportunity to travel with 3 other women on a trek to Kedarnath and Badrinath. And while I was walking in the mountains, I heard 2 women singing. They were cutting grass on the hillside. And this is what I heard. Sone koredi purpurandi uchi nichi dandyo tumbe na swami but mari jalyo gehri kadnyu ma. I heard this sound and I was absolutely transfixed. The women were cutting grass, and as you can see, that they were carrying this heavy headload, and they came down to the road. And I asked one of the women, I said, "Aapka geet itna sundar tha, Didi. Aap kya ga rahi thi?" Now, she had a heavy headload on her head, and she was wondering कि ये शहर दिल्ली शहर से आई हुई औरत ये मुझे क्यों ये सवाल पूछ रही है. So she turned around and said to me, "आपको क्या है मेरे गीत से?" Now, these words totally changed my life. There are moments in each one of us lives, whether you are students, whether you're faculty, whether you are a reader, whatever you are doing in your lives, there are moments that you can pinpoint that changed your life. I started thinking about her words. Aapko kya hai mere geet se? I live in Delhi. I live in a metropolitan city. She lives in the mountains. Her daily life, her daily culture, her song has nothing to do with me. So I decided at that moment that I am going to begin to understand the life of the women of the mountains, of the Himalayan communities through their song. Now, many people in the world have documented songs. I'm not the first person to do so, but I must say that, perhaps I was the first person to look at women's lives through song and to document a culture, a traditional culture in a Himalayan community through songs and understand the value of how rich song is in giving us insights into environmental impacts and women's role in saving their environment. So this was a unique way. So after this meeting, I went to Badrinath, And there I went to the ashram reception. There was no electricity. So I said, ki aapke paas ek mombatti or pencil or paper hai. So I wrote down 10 lines that I would like to study the folk songs of the women of Garhwal Himalayas and understand the culture through their songs. The next day, all of us on our trek, we went up to a village called Mana, which is the last village on the Indian border from China. And there, the Saraswati, I don't know if you've heard that there is 3 rivers, no? The Saraswati, the Ganga, and the Yamuna. But the Saraswati flows underground, and it only meets at Allahabad at the Triveni, at the Sangam, which is called Prayag. So there, the Saraswati river has its source in a gorge over there, and it falls 100 feet. The myth is that when Vyas Muni was writing the Ramayana, he's supposed to have said, Saraswati, tum itni awaaz bana rahi ho, tum chup raho, and she flows underground. Now, these are myths which are proliferating our culture, and you are probably aware of various myths that we believe are real for our lives. So as I was standing near the Saraswati river, there was a man about 90 years of age. He was sitting on a bench wearing a coat, and he belonged to the Mana village. And he said to me, ki Didi, agar tum aage padhna chahti ho, to Saraswati Nadi ka paani lo. Now you're going to ask me, in today's world, we didn't have mobiles in 1992. I had not sent him a WhatsApp. I had not sent him an email. How did he know what was in my mind? How could he read my mind? What kind of knowledge is this? There is one kind of knowledge which, like you say that Vandana has written so many books, you read her books and you get knowledge from that. The other knowledge is from her spoken word, which you listen to so articulately, and you understood her life's journey and how she is related to environment and women. The other knowledge is a revealed knowledge which this man had. I have no communication with him. Till today, I do not have an answer to this question. How did he know what was in my mind? But I began to believe in a higher philosophical domain, that perhaps intuitively people pick up what is in your mind. And the universe also comes to conjoin to make this happen. So when he said this to me, I moved forward near the Saraswati river. I washed my face with it. And all of you know that Saraswati is the goddess of knowledge. Wo shiksha ki pratik hai. So with that faith in my mind, I washed my face, and you will not believe it that my life changed from then. And from 1992 till now, I've been working very actively in the Himalayan communities. I mean, Ritika has already read out to you the various books that I have been engaged with in the last 3 decades. And my life still continues to be linked with the women of the mountains. So on coming back to Delhi, I was sanctioned 3 years of leave for my PhD. And then I go back to the mountains to understand the songs of the women and to understand their deep relationship with ecology of the women of the mountains. Next slide. Next.
One second, ma'am.
Yeah. So just to understand, why are songs important? Now I don't know whether you have folk songs or folk culture or media in your college or not, but just to understand that songs are the oldest expressions of a community. They are deeply rooted in the life of people, and therefore they allow one to see many different aspects that are hidden in a song. And the chief characteristic of songs is that they are simple melodies. As you heard my song, I didn't know Garhwali then, but I had to learn it in 3 years. I left my husband, my mother-in-law, my 2 sons in Delhi, and I lived for 3 years in the village, understanding women's songs and their lives. So that is why I chose this medium of communication. Next. Next slide. So now let's just look at Garhwal. Garhwal is known for centuries as Dev Bhumi. Why is it known as Dev Bhumi? Because all the Tirath sthans are over here: Gangotri, Yamunotri, Badri, Kedar. All the 4 temple shrines are located in this region. So Dev Bhumi is the abode of gods. And this territory of Uttarakhand in the central Himalayas was referred to as Garhwal. Later, the Britishers, for administrative purposes, divided it into TD Garhwal and Pauri Garhwal. Now, whenever you are looking at a culture, the context is very important. Please remember this. You cannot study anything without its context. Context is very important, and that is why the geographical terrain is very important. So where do the women live? Is it rugged? Is it plain? Do they have to walk up and down? Where are the forests located? Where are the rivers located? In order to understand the whole ecosystem, then only you can understand the lives of people in a community. So the context is very important, irrespective of what you're doing. If you're studying in a lab, the context of what is available to you and the context in which those chemicals are available is important. So contextual understanding in any research, I mean, all of you are going to grow up to do some kind of research, do your master's or your PhD. So understanding this, that for any research, understanding the context is very important. Next slide. So I'm just sharing with you in the context that what did the traditional homes look like? They are made of mud, stone, and wood. In TD Garhwal, they are beautiful homes. The women, the family lives on the first floor, and the cattle and the buffaloes live on the ground floor. Now, the domestic animals have a place of great respect, as you have already heard from Vandana. They are an ecosystem by themselves. So they are worshipped, they are taken care of, they are fed. Women walk long distances to get fuel wood and fodder to feed their domestic animals and take care of them. So this is a beautiful house. The roof is made of slate, which keeps the home warm, and it is sloping so that the snow, when it falls. So everything that is designed in this ecosystem is related to the environment and to the climate. If you see, the windows are very small because it is a cold climate, so they don't have large spaces. The veranda is used for the elderly people in the family because the women go to the forest and they go for long distances. So the people sit and look after the younger children in the family. So it is like a whole wonderful ecosystem. The home is representative of that. Next slide. Now, when I began my work, the question that was in my mind was that I noticed that women sing on all occasions. They were singing all the time. Even when I would walk with them to the forest, they would sing. So I asked Balmi Devi, she's a woman from Bura Kedar, and I asked her, ki tum geet kyun gaate ho? Now, the answer she gave me, according to me, is better than any PhD, any intellectual that I have met. When a pitcher is full to the brim, it overflows. This overflowing is our song. It can be out of joy or out of sorrow. जब एक घड़ा पानी से भर जाता है और वो छलकता है, वो पानी छलकता है, वो छलकना हमारा लोकगीत है, चाहे वो दुख में हो या चाहे वो सुख में हो. Now, isn't it such a beautiful metaphor, the way she's likening the song to a pitcher? जैसे छोटा सा घड़ा है, उसमें आप पानी डालते जा रहे हो और वो पानी छलकता है, वो छलकना उसका लोकगीत है. I found this so beautiful. That is why I have said this. Now, every time I'm reiterating to you, those who are listening to me, that please understand the wisdom that is inherent in women's lives. They have not been to school and college. They do not have PhDs. They do not have a DR added to their name. They do not have degrees which will get them to do MBAs. But they are the real warriors of our community. They have so much wisdom, and it is this wisdom that I've begun to listen to for the last 3 decades. And I want to put this wisdom out to people, that they are so rich in knowledge. Now, this kind of an articulation, and the same woman said to me, Didi, मट्टी के हम बने हैं, मट्टी से हमारा गहरा संबंध है. I could feel her passion for the mud that belongs to her, the soil where she lives. Her understanding of that soil is so deep. Like, we just walk on roads. We don't care. We just walk on the soil. We don't care what does it do for us. हमारे अंदर वो आत्मीयता नहीं है अपनी धरती से. And we talk about Azadi. Did Gandhi ji have that? How did we get freedom? Today, these are things that young people have to begin to think of. Next. Now, in 3 years, I collected 150 songs, and I'm telling you, I did not know what to do with them. I read so many books in which classifications were given by Govind Chatak, by Babulkar, by all traditional people. I'm not the first person who's worked on Garhwali folk songs, and so many classifications. But I was not satisfied because I wanted to include women. That is why my title is Participatory Research. What does it mean? Sahbhagita. Sahbhagita in what way? Is it just on paper, or is it really? So I would sit in circles with women and I would say कि दीदी ये 150 गीत हैं, इनको कैसे हम समझेंगे? ये तो बहुत सारा आपकी देन है, ये सब आपके गीत हैं, ये आपकी आवाज हैं, इनको हम कैसे समझेंगे? And these 6 classifications, you will not believe it, are given by the women of the mountains. So first we divided it into the natural environment, which gives us the ecological perspective. So today mainly we will focus on that. Then I saw that there were some songs that celebrated the life cycle events, like, birth, death, and marriage. Then there were lots of songs that talked about social relations. माँ बेटी के गीत, भाई बहन के गीत, husband wife के गीत, सास बहू के गीत. Because see, the family is very important. The family exists in a context, and you do not, as a member of society, you are not away from your family. तो अगर आप परिवार को ही नहीं समझोगे, परिवार के dynamics को नहीं समझोगे, आप society में क्या contribute करोगे? Then there were some songs that talked about her work role. उसकी जो दिनचर्या है, वो दिन में क्या करती है. There were lovely songs that talked about the beauty of a woman. Now, this category was a category I found for the first time, and I called it aesthetic depiction. And the last category, which is very interesting for you people also, these are songs of dissent, protest, and social change. Now, these are new songs. Now, people say that गीत तो पुराने हैं, प्राचीन हैं, नए गीत बनते नहीं हैं. That is not true. New songs are being created all the time. That is why I want to say that song is a very rich source of social communication. Please begin to include that. Just like you look at your WhatsApp and your social media and your Facebook and all these are quantitative indicators that talk about number of cinema halls, number of TV units, and they indicate to you the progression of a country, because that is why we are used to counting in quantity numbers. But what about the rich source of human communication that is available on the ground? And songs are one of these. So this classification I want to share with you is given by the women of the mountains and not by any scholar or me. So let's just take, I know I have limited time. I cannot take so many songs. I cannot share with you 150 songs. For that, you will have to see my book, which I will share with you later. So let's just look at some of the songs and understand women's wisdom through these songs. Next slide. Now, this is about the natural environment and ecology. So the song is saying, Basant Ritu is here. The hillsides are covered with flowers. The koel sings from mountain tops. The sound reverberates in the valley. The manbabura, that is the local name for a dove, flies from tree to tree. His voice reminds me of my husband who has gone away to a strange land. In Garhwal, people sit on the banks of river Ganga and enjoy this season. Now, if you see the various layers of this song, you can see that it's talking about the seasons, it's talking about the flowers, it is talking about the birds, and it is also making a reference to migration. She talks about her husband. And migration is a very, very important aspect of life in the mountain community. Most of the people who are working even as lab attendants and lab assistants in our colleges in Delhi University come from the mountains. There are no occupational avenues available for young people, for men in the mountains, and so they migrate to the plains, leaving women, and the burden falls on women. So that is why I'm making this point very important. Please flag it in your mind. Migration, again, affects women's lives. Next. Next slide. Now, in this song, I just want you to understand, you will say that, ma'am, what methodology did you use to analyze the song? So in this song, there were special features of the season. There was the presence of the sacred. There was the emotional state that she's missing her husband. There was a reference to social relations. And there was also a reference to her work roles. So if you begin to, this was my method of analyzing each song. I did a content analysis of 150 songs. And by understanding the different layers that are inherent in each song, I started developing a picture of the culture and women's lives in that community. So ecologically, this is very important. This is a very rich tool methodologically available to you for understanding the environment. Next slide. Let's take another song. Now, this is a natural environment. Now, what is happening is we are talking about Vandana Shiva, and some of you were questioning her on climate change. Now, what is happening is because of climate change and the deforestation, the springs, the natural springs which have water in them are getting all dried up. So this is a song about water scarcity. Women create songs on every aspect of their lives. In the month of Jeth, the sun beats strongly. My lips are dry. Dear sky, create rain and quench my thirst. It is evening and the water vessel lies empty. All the daughters and daughter-in-laws of the village are waiting for the water to come. The path to the spring is steep and arduous. Now, this is a very important point for gender and environment, because when the deforestation is happening, what gets affected? Women have to walk longer distances to get fuel wood and fodder, and the springs which have running water, which is the source of their water supply, are getting dried. And whose lives get affected? women's lives get affected. So songs are very rich in indicating climate change and all that is happening in the environment and global warming today. Next song. Next slide. Now, this is a very important song because, women's wisdom is being reflected in this. Dear sisters, do not cut the trees. If you cut the trees, the soil, mud, earth will disappear. Now, just see, we were talking about landslides. Here is a reference. They know exactly that पेड़ों के कटान से मट्टी की रोक नहीं होती है. Landslides होते हैं, भूस्खलन होता है. If you cut the trees, the soil, mud, earth will disappear. No fields, no houses will remain on the hillside. Trees give us fodder for animals, keep our environment clean and the air pure. Nurture and care for trees like your own children. Look after them, raise them with care. Now, how much wisdom is inherent? There was a person I met in the mountains. He called every woman of Garhwal is an eco-philosopher. Vandana Shiva uses the word ecofeminism. He used the word eco-philosopher. Every woman in the mountains is an eco-philosopher. Her knowledge of her trees, when to prune them, when to cut them, when to lop them, which branches to cut is amazing. At this point, I'm going to sing you a beautiful song which women sing while walking to the forest. Teri kali khagari pingala butka bhala loga pilandi ras ka gutka ईसरा तेरा क्या करूं मैं बखान भला लोगा पिलांदी रास का गुटका. When women walk to the forest, there is a berry in the forest, just like we have strawberries called heser. It is yellow in color. So she is describing the heser. She's saying, "Ki heser, tu hame ras ka gutka pilati hai. You quench my thirst when I'm tired and I'm walking to the forest. And because trees are being cut, I have to walk 15 kilometers today to get fuel wood and fodder. Therefore, you quench my thirst. And you are so beautiful, dear heser." Now, just see how their lives are linked to the forest. I mean, Vandana talked about the forest, and please that do not equate plantations to forest. Forests are self-regenerating, and forests have a very integral relationship with the women in the community of the Himalayas. Next song. Now we've taken plenty of songs on ecology. Let's just understand one song of marriage. Now, Kanyadan, you all know, is a ceremony wherein the father gives away the daughter in marriage. So she's urging her father, she's saying, "Dear father, give Kanyadan. Land and jewels everyone gives, but you, dear father, give Kanyadan and attain salvation." Now, just see, it is known in our Shastras that agar pita putri ko Kanyadan mein deta hai, to use mukti mil jati hai. It is considered a great act of sacrifice. So she is considering, she is very close to her father. So she's telling him that give me away in Kanyadan and you attain salvation. The following song is sung at the birth of a child. I must say to you that I did not find any gender discrimination in the mountains. Like in Delhi, there is a lot of, and in metropolitan cities, there is a lot of gender discrimination even now, because one of my students has studied, the discriminatory laws of getting rid of the female child, even though it is banned now. And she called that thesis, this was my master's student, and she called it Silent Deaths. It is so strange that the ratio of 1,000 men was 720 in Delhi. So, and this is supposed to be an elite city with great educated people, but their attitude towards the female child are abhorrent. So now I did not find it, but this is a traditional song. So now in the mountain communities, you don't see discrimination. Dear son, you are the fruit of my sacrifice. To attain you, I underwent severe austerities and observed all rites and rituals. For you, I bathed in the holy kund of all the shrines in Garhwal. I worshipped all the stones in the name of God. Dear son, may you become that ray of light that illuminates the mountain peaks at dawn. My dear son, may you become the light of my Kul family. You can see how beautifully, the imagery that she's drawing. Jaise pahad pe Surya Kiran ki roshni padti and the mountain tops get lit up. In the same way, may you become that ray of light that illumines the whole family, and may you take the lineage of the family. Now, women are given a lot of importance in the hill states because they are the ones who actually do all the work. As I said, men migrate, even the agricultural tasks, 93% are performed by the women. So So okay. Ritika is saying to go slowly. Am I talking too fast? Okay. Next. Now, this is a lovely song where, when girls are married, earlier they were married at a young age. They were married at the age of 12 or 13. Now, of course, the age of marriage in the mountains is 18. And because women are very much oriented towards education in Uttarakhand, the education rates are high in Uttarakhand, 77%. So what is happening is women are married late. But earlier on, when there were no roads available to go to your mother's home, this song has so much pathos in it. She's telling the high mountain peaks, dear high mountain peaks, lower yourselves, let me see my mother's home. Dear tall devda trees, lower your branches so that I can see my mother's home. Can you see the anguish and the pain in her song? That trees do not bend, mountains do not bend, but she is asking of the impossible because she's longing for her mother. Look at the life that she leads in the mountains. She is pained because she cannot go to her mother's home. Now, of course, with the advent of mobile phones, there is these things have changed. But these traditional songs are still sung in the community, because this one, Uchi dandiyon tumni se hui ja, Baba ji ka des dekhan diya, Ghana devdar tumni se hui ja, Ma Baba ka des dekhan diya. This song is one of the most traditional songs. And I found that when women sing this song, all the women sitting in the circle would begin to start crying. There would be tears streaming down their eyes because there is so much identification. Now, if you were to sing one song, if I was to sing a modern song, you may not have the same emotions as me because our lives are so divorced from each other. We don't relate to each other. We don't bond with each other. My life story is so different from your life story. Whereas in the mountains, it is not so. There is so much bonding, I can't tell you. Everybody's life experiences are the same. You walk to the same forest. You get wood from the same forest. You light the same chula. The grains are the same. Your food habits are the same. Your husbands are away. Your life stories are so akin that they relate to each other. There is a deep level of bonding. And this is one thing I just learned by living with the women, that, that is what is missing in an urban environment. We may have all the facilities, we may have all the resource items to make our lives more comfortable, but the human element is missing. And that human element is very, very prominent in the mountain communities. So this was a very, very important song for depicting social relationships where a girl is longing for her parents' home. Next slide. Let's take one song between husband and wife. You, my dear Swami, are in the city of Delhi. Now, as I've talked to you, he's already migrated. He's working in Delhi. You travel the whole day by car, while I walk on the stones to the forest to cut grass. My hands and feet have become torn with deep marks. I have become weak doing such continuous hard work. Please get transferred to Kotdwar. I will meet you at Haridwar. Now, she can't go to Delhi, so she's saying ki Kotdwar is another little town in the mountains. So she's saying that I'll come there because she's tired working so hard. This song also reflects the hard work that she's doing in the mountains while walking to the forest. I used to ask the women that why do they sing songs in the forest? जंगल में क्यों गीत गाते हो? Because they would say, अंजलि दीदी आपने गाना सुनना है तो हमारे साथ जंगल चलो. चल पाओगी इतना? I mean, those days I was much younger than I am today. And I would walk with them and they would sing in the forest. And you know what they would say? जंगल में जब हम गीत गाते हैं, आकाश हमारा गीत सुनता है, देवदार पेड़ हमारे गीत सुनते हैं और वो हमें जवाब नहीं देते. This is something so significant about ecology and environment and gender, because when you are singing, your song is absorbed by the sky. When they are singing, the song is absorbed by the forest, and the forest does not answer back. Whereas if she sang the same song in the courtyard, her mother-in-law would say, "Kya kar rahi hai? Kya geet ga rahi hai? Kyun mujhe gaaliyan de rahi hai?" You understand how valuable the forest is in the lives of women in the community? Now, the next song is a little harsh, because mother-in-law, daughter-in-law have a very difficult relationship. Dear Sasuji, do not fight with me day and night. I will run away. I will run away to my husband. My husband will come in a rail. I will burn you alive with tail. Now, this is just to rhyme the song. I mean, I know it is very violent, but it is only indicative of the harshness that she's facing with her mother-in-law in the family life. Next. Now, what is this dialogue across the hills? I remember I told you when I first heard that song, the women was cutting grass from one hill to the other. Now, women, when they go together so that, there are animals in the hills and there are patrols and forest rangers and all, so that they don't feel scared. So one woman sings from one side and the other one answers her back. This song is created on the spur of the moment, and it is a great psychological release. Like supposing she sings 2 lines and the other one will answer her back, her friend, and then she will create 2 lines and her friend will answer her back. These songs are called Bajuban Geet. This is the traditional name for them, but I call it a dialogue across the hills. Why do I call it a dialogue? Because the song is giving you a psychological relief. So even though the first line does not match the content, so it is co-created at the moment, at the spur of the moment. See how skilled they are. There is a pile of books. My brothers are close to my mother. I am my mother's enemy. That is why she has sent me away. There is a pile of books. My brothers are close to my mother. I am my mother's enemy. That is why she has sent me away. Just like butter cannot be formed from residual buttermilk, in the same way, leave alone meeting, even seeing my brother's wife is impossible for me. Nanad bhabhi ka to chalta rehta hai na. So these songs are also reflective of the social relations in the family. Next. Now let's take one song from the 4th section, which is her work roles. The hot sun is beating on me as I go to collect grass from the jungle. But alas, I find no grass. I walk for miles and miles in search for grass. Not a handful do I find. My complexion was golden like haldi. Now I have become dark like a tawa. Roaming in these jungles, oh, what a hard life I have. So she says my complexion was because, women in the mountains are very pretty, but if you continuously go every day out in the sun without any sunscreen, they don't have any sunscreen. So their complexion does become dark. And sometimes women who are 50 years old also begin to look very aged. Their lives are really very, very hard. Lives of mountain women are very, very hard. So this song on work roles clearly reflects that harshness in her life and the hard work that she has to perform. Next. Now, this is a girl who was getting married, so I went to see her in the morning. She had yet not worn all her beautiful clothes and her nath, which is very famous in Tiri Garhwal. The song is written, interestingly, by a man. You are as beautiful as the stars shining brightly in the sky. The beauty spot on your face and the dimple on your cheeks all add to your beauty. When you smile, it is like 1,000 flowers blooming. Your dark eyes and unruly hair, your soft hands and feet and beautiful teeth indeed make you look like a queen of beauty. Now, I don't know if any man in Delhi is going to write a song like this for you, but I was quite happy. I mean, each one of us would love somebody to write us a beautiful song like this, but I was very happy because this song was describing the beauty of the woman. And she is likened to, like the goddess Parvati. She's as beautiful as goddess Parvati. She's as lovely as goddess Lakshmi. So the way that, they are referred to as archetypal images, not as Sunita or Rani or Ananya. They don't take their names, but they liken them to the goddesses that they are worshipped in the community. So this, I'm just giving you one example of aesthetic depiction. Next. Now let's take the last section, which is dissent, protest, and social change. Now, a lot of the NGOs that are working in the mountain communities have had some effect on the lives of women. So social issue, changing status of a girl child. The song says, the Vedas and the Puranas deny the selling of a girl by her father. A daughter is born from the same womb as a son to a mother, but only the son is entitled to the parents' property. Taking material wealth in exchange for a daughter is a crime. Do not sell your daughter as though she was a cow. Stop doing this and take blessings from your daughters. Now, this is a very radical song, perhaps the influence of Mahila Samakhya and other NGOs that had come into the region. Whereas, for girls to sit together and compose this song, so there is the influence of some outside agency here. But the fact is that they are reiterating the gender value of being a girl and wanting to have equal rights and in the property. So this is a new song. That is why I put it in the category of protest and social change. The song on the right-hand side, Change in the Cultural Fabric, Impact of Modernization. I don't know if any one of you has traveled to the Garhwal region. Chamba is a small town which is situated on the main road and has beautiful little and big shops. The students from the college nearby gather in the streets. So the reference to a college has come up, a new town has come up, shops has come up, so which is reflecting of modernization. Their teachers urge them to study hard, not to smoke tobacco, and not to say unkind words to others. Chamba town is a nice little town. Even the road to New Tiri goes from here. Now, you'll say that why did you include these kind of songs? Now, this song is also reflecting about the changing status, the modernization, that colleges have come up, shops have come up, young students are studying, their teachers are urging them not to smoke tobacco, their teachers are urging them not to use unkind words. And the road to New Tiri also goes from Chamba. So some kind of insights you're getting from each song and the content of each song about the status of the society. Next song. Now this is about mobilizing women's power. When women come together, they create a Mahila Mandal, and those Mahila Mandals, they become avenues of discussing many points. Women have a lot of power. Women in the mountains have taken a lot to shutting down the liquor shops. Now what happens is that, men go for 1 month, they work for 11 months in the city, then for 1 month they go home. And there are lots of local liquor shops in the community. So there is a lot of drinking, and men are found just lying here and there on the streets. And that also affects women's lives a lot. So here they are saying all the women got together to form a Mahila Mandal. We went to the office of DP Maurya and Gupta at Tiri and lodged our protest. Now, what were they protesting against? I don't know if all of you know about the Tiri Dam. When the Tiri Dam was made, 125 villages were submerged. 125 villages. Their homes were gone underwater. They were displaced. They were given new matchstick-like homes in New Tiri, and they were rehabilitated and displaced to a new place to which they could not relate. Now, that is why they are protesting. But you know that all the protests, the famous environmentalist Sundarlal Bahuguna, who I met several times and I spent a lot of time with near the Surang, he was protesting against the Tiri Dam. But all this fell on dead years. And today we have 96 kilometers of the Tiri Dam and 125 villages submerged to provide electricity to urban cities like New Delhi. If we are together, we can fight any problem, the women are saying. Dear brothers of the village, support us. Do not spoil your life drinking alcohol. Do not abuse our Mahila Mandal. We will fight the atrocities of the government. Now just see how power is being reiterated. This is called having agency. The agency of women to create a kind of a organized, powerful avenue where women can come together and discuss their problems. So they have taken off. In fact, I don't know if you are familiar with this, that the women are actually responsible for the newly created state of Uttarakhand. I was doing my research at that time, and I have walked in so many protests with women demanding for a new state. Earlier it was known as Uttar Pradesh, and Lucknow was the capital. And so the hill state was totally neglected. It was the women's power and agency that fought for the creation of a separate hill state of Uttarakhand. And I was fortunate enough to be part of so many of these protest movements. And finally, in 2000, they got the new state. In fact, my book, of which I am talking to you just now, was released by the Chief Minister in Dehradun to celebrate the first year of the newly created Hill State. And I invited 20 women from these villages to sing songs on the stage and be blessed by Sundarlal Bahuguna and other social activists who were responsible. Now, this was a great moment for me because, sometimes we do research. It's not about Anjali Kapila's book or her voice or her work or anything. It is not about me at all. It is about the women who have created this movement for me. It is about the people in the community who have given a voice to me, which I can share with you today. I am only a platform. I'm humble and modest enough to understand that this is not my voice. What I'm sharing with you young people today and with the faculty of your college is the voice of the women of the community and their wisdom. It is their voice that you are listening to. Next. Now, dissent, protest, and social change is also related to environmental issues, which is, like you can see, this woman is bringing a headload of fuel wood and fire. Now, while cutting grass, you wandered off to an unknown field on your strength and courage. And forest rangers did no good to you. Did no good to you means that, they tried to tease her or molest her or something. And forest rangers did no good to you. They confiscated the daratis from all the women cutting grass on hillsides. The sound of your bangles resound in the forest. The sound lures people from here and there. Come, I will go with you to the jungle and you can cut grass with no fear of the patrol. Now, the patrol is an outside agency which is, planted there by the forest department to take care of the forest. Now, what the village people normally say that jo jungle hamare gaon ke aaspaas hai, uski dekh rekh gaon walon ko milni chahiye. But that doesn't happen because the joint forest movement, the JFM, which is all dominated by the World Bank, all these, have put forest rangers and patrols in place who become like the outside agency. And while women had no fear actually to go to the forest and cut fuel wood and fodder, these kind of songs also came up in the environment. So that is why I put it under the category of dissent, protest, and social change. Next. Now, this is my last slide. You will wonder why there are so many layers. I call each song multi-layered. And I have shown this to you in my presentation that every song has so many layers. So some songs talk about the presence of the sacred. They make a reference to gods and goddesses. Some songs talk about the integral relationship with nature and ecology, which I have demonstrated. Many songs talk about patterns of familial and social relations and interaction, which you have seen. They also talk about the emotional and psychological state of women, where she's talking about how she's feeling when her husband is away or her relationship with her mother. It's talking about her emotional state. Some songs depict the work roles and the activities performed. Then there are songs which reflect the socio-cultural customs and traditions of the region. Then there were songs that talked about the aesthetic depiction and also songs that talked about the life cycle events that were actually in the community. Now, this diagram is very representative of my doctoral thesis and also of the work that I have done to indicate to you how rich a song is as a source material for understanding the lives of women in any community. In this case, the community is the Himalayan communities. Thank you so much.
Now, I request Vani to please take forward.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First of all, I would like to say that many students were relating to you, and there were their friends who are from that region only.
So, nice. I'm so happy.
Yes, ma'am. They were relating to you. And so I would like to ask questions from our audience. There is a question from Ritika. Ma'am, slowly people are getting attracted towards westernization and they are losing their culture. What are your thoughts upon it?
Yeah, actually, that is so true. And if you see, my work is answering this question itself. Because see, I am in a way, even my next book, Traditional Health Practices, some other time we can have that talk. I'm talking about women's wisdom related to their own bodies and their health, and why we are not tapping that wisdom. So in this presentation, it is only symbolic to tell you how rich our culture is and how much wisdom communities have, because they live with the soil, they relate to the forest, they live with the rivers. Now, in my new book, which I'm working on, the Ganga, I have looked at the songs of the Ganga. Not many people have recorded the songs of the river. I have looked at the songs of the river from Gangotri to Haridwar. I have just taken the Himalayan Ganga, whereas the Ganga is 2,250 kilometers. So the book has just been published, and we can have one session maybe on the river Singh sometime, whenever your eco club wants to talk about the river and its life and the songs. Now, I'm trying to reiterate the richness of our culture, and that is exactly the reason. It's a very good question, because westernization is taking over our lives, and we are forgetting. I made reference to so many issues that are important: bonding, about relating to each other, the human element, the integral relationship of us and our forests, the integral relationship of us and our rivers. For us, the rivers are only, कि जब कोई मर जाता है तो उसकी ashes डालने के लिए चले जाते हैं. We don't care how we are polluting the river. So our actions have to also tell us about how to be ecologically conscious, how to be sustainable in our actions, which we should not just be drifted away. And therefore, I urge at least the people who belong to Uttarakhand, the young women who are present here, to value their own culture and to reiterate. Now, I really don't belong to Uttarakhand, but somebody told me maybe my previous life was there, because it's very rare for a girl who is not an Uttarakhandi to devote her time. I mean, 3 decades of my life I've devoted to Uttarakhand, because it means so much to me. Their wisdom and their knowledge and their songs mean so much to me. I relate to these women like, I can't explain to them. When I see them, they feel so close to me. They feel so related to me. Didi, aise lagta hai. One woman told me, Didi, aise lagta hai jab tum jati ho, ki jaise apne peet ki bachchi ja rahi hai. Can I get a better compliment than that? I don't think my mother could even say that to me. I mean, I just cannot explain to you the bond that I feel with the women of the mountains. So I hope that, this presentation will urge you to reiterate, to look at your own culture. And my biggest statement, which I just gave to the press, to the media press even that day, कि संस्कृति और विकास का विभाजन नहीं कर सकते. You cannot divorce culture from development. Please see that they are interlinked. In fact, that is the whole methodology of my whole work: culture, ecology, and development. All 3 are linked: culture, health, and development. If you look at any work done by me, you will see these 3 interlinkages. So I'm so happy to be able to talk to young people, and I hope, like somebody made a difference in my life, that I can make a difference in your lives. I only hope.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, there's one more question from Neha Porwal. Ma'am, I refuse to believe that people are not aware in metropolitan cities. They are just ignorant. People are practical enough to say that एक पेड़ ही तो है जो काट रहे हैं, despite knowing that it is harming themselves. Then they just sit back and comment that government is not working properly for pollution and environment. Do we need awareness or emotions, sense of pain and love towards family and our mother nature?
What a nice question. What a nice question, Neha. Because I 100% agree with you. That we all of us are aware of all these issues. We are aware of climate change. We are aware of global warming. Like, look at the song which said that the springs are drying up. There is no water. And who does it affect? Women have to walk longer distances. We are aware, and yet why are we apathetic towards our awareness? What is it that we can do? Now you can see that, these women in this mountain communities, they are not sitting down. They have picketed liquor shops. They have created Mahila Mandals. And there is one woman who I met when I was working near the Ganga in Harsil. Her name is Basanti Negi. Do you know what she did? She took 10 women of her forest, and she went of her community, and she went to the forest. People were cutting rampantly. They were cutting the forest above Harsil. And she told them a management strategy. She said, you start yodeling like. So when that sound resounded in the mountains, you know what? The people who were cutting the forest, they felt that there were 300 women and they would be surrounded. They dropped their kulhadas and they ran away. Now, she has not been to Ahmedabad, to IIM Ahmedabad. She's not a management wizard. How did she have this strategy? This is her wisdom. She knows it, but she has also used her wisdom. Why don't we use our wisdom? I'm sure, like Neha Singh, we are all very aware, but there is something that holds us back because we want to be part of the mainstream. If you are going to the pub to drink, if you are going to smoke, if you are going to abuse your teachers, if you are going to use harsh language to your parents, if you are going to be nasty to your friends and all, we are learning these things. But why can't we learn the nicer things from our environment? Why can't we learn to be kind to people? Why can't we begin from ourselves? If we were gentle and kind to our family, if we were gentle and kind to our environment, to the road that we walk on every day, if we don't throw garbage, if we become responsible human beings, I'm sure we will create a society that is different. So awareness is there, but action is missing. And so emotions are also important. Like you can feel when I'm talking, you can feel my passion, no? You can feel my emotion. It is not just getting a degree. For me, that was the least of it. Honestly, I could have done a PhD in 92. Why did I wait till I was 47 to get a PhD? Because I could not relate to what I'm doing. Education has to have some meaning. It has to have some relation. I waited so long to do something that meant something to my heart. So I think each one of you who's listening to Neha's question and my answer, please reflect on this and maybe our lives will change slowly. Thank you.
Ma'am, because I have oftenly felt like even in everywhere in my surrounding, like somebody was throwing a toffee wrapper outside. No, a can of Nestle. They were throwing it outside, and I usually travel by public conveyance. तो मैंने उनसे आंटी से बात में पूछा, आंटी आपने बाहर फेंक दिया, आप इतना बड़ा पर्स लेके बैठे उसमें डाल लेते. तो उनका आंसर was पर्स खराब हो जाएगा, गंदा हो जाएगा. तो एंड माय माइंडसेट कि आप जहां रह रहे हो उस सिटी को गंदा कर सकते हो, बट एक पर्स गंदा करके घर जाके साफ नहीं कर सकते.
How do we change the mindset? It's very difficult. See, the social consciousness is a word that many people use, that, you know, unfortunately, I don't want to run down our own community, but we lack social consciousness. We lack a lot of social consciousness. And perhaps, you know, like you can just say to her, okay, give it to me, I will dispose it off, you know, show her a wrapper or a brown paper bag and put it in that, and tell her that when you get off the next step, when you get off the next stop, when you see a garbage tin, please dispose it there. Do not throw it over here. Purse ganda ho jayega. Now, this is the kind of mindset that needs to be changed. And I think all of you are very aware. I mean, I've been hearing your questions to Vandana Shiva. So all of you are a very aware lot of young people. I believe that you have the power to change the world.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to call our co-convener, Professor Minu Agarwal, ma'am, for vote of thanks. Minu, ma'am?
Yeah. Very good afternoon, Dr. Kapila, ma'am. I'm Minu Agarwal, and I was your student in 1983. You taught me paper of communication in Lady Evin. So it was such, I went back to that time. I went back to that time that it was such a wonderful thing that we had such great teachers. And today a lecture was just, it was such, I went to another sphere. Means I'm not an environmentalist, but I could feel that everyone should become an environmentalist and passionate like you are. The words, I have noted it down, and I will keep the words. When a pitcher is full to the brim, it overflows. The overflowing of our songs, be it of joy or sorrow, is there. So these two lines, they have really taught me something today, and I could feel that these words, they are just not words for you also. Your entire life is now is around them only. So it was it now I will say formal thanks, but it is it was not just a mere lecture for me, or it is not a formality that I'm thanking you as co-convener of the Eco Club, but this thank is from the bottom of my heart. I'm so happy that I could see my teacher after so many years again on this platform. So thank you so much, ma'am. Now a formal thank. Now I would like to formally thank. So it was a privilege to have two eminent environmentalists, Dr. Vandana Shiva and Dr. Anjali Kapila, with us today in this webinar on gender and environment, organized by Eco Club, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee College. I thank both of you from the bottom of my heart, and it was a great learning experience for all the faculty members present here and all the students. Some of them are on this Google, on YouTube, as well as on the Zoom. So it was a pleasure to listen and a very enriching experience. And I thank Dr. Tripti Anand, who is convener of the Eco Club, and she does lots of work to make it a very active Eco Club. Our faculty members who are part of the Eco Club, our executive team of the students, and our excellent work done by Nandita Gupta and Vani Sharma today. Thank you. And all the executive students and all the participants. There are so many participants of Eco Club, and I thank you all for being part of this program today, and also for technical help. I would like to thank Mr. Sarabjit ji. So thanks a lot, ma'am, and I would hope we would invite you again, and soon we will get a chance to hear from you. So with this assurance only, we are leaving you.
Thank you so much.
So we will call you again. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. So can I request everyone to switch on their camera for a group photograph? Is it possible? Thank you so much, ma'am. Is it done?
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So I think that's it. We can now leave. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tripti ma'am. Thank you, Meenu ma'am. Thanks.
Thank